Beat Nussbaumer from macrobeat.co.uk. I mean, it's all about the G20 meeting this weekend and most prominently, obviously, the talks tomorrow between President Trump and Premier Xi, which will talk about the trade war, or basically trying to have trade talks. The expectations at this point in time is really about whether they can build some form of a truce, which would mean no implementation of fresh tariffs, kick the can down the road, talking about, just signaling to the market that they'll be having further talks in the time ahead. But reality is the market had very low expectations maybe a week ago. In the meantime, reading all the news and the statements that came out so far, it seems there's a little bit of a small silver lining in the event that maybe we can de-escalate the situation rather than escalate the trade war. That is obviously the big topic for tomorrow. The problem for the market will be that obviously while the key meeting takes place at the weekend, the market is closed and we are just subject to the gap risk on Sunday when the market open again. But generally I would think the way that things stand right now, it's really about possibly a more moderate outcome rather than a more aggressive outcome. But Trump being Trump, we just really don't know until the last minute how he feels. And the other thing I would say is the general feeling will be that everything Mr. Trump is doing currently is really aimed at his 2020 re-election. So it's quite likely that Mr. Trump could flip-flop on some of the issues going forward, depending on what he actually needs for him to look better for the upcoming election. Gut feel and common sense would say he cannot have an interest on escalating the trade war, as this could just really turn the US economy weak just into about the autumn of next year, where he tries to be re-elected. Let's have a look at some of the markets in the run-up for the meeting. The first slide we look at is the Dow Jones. Obviously, we have broken the 2019's high. We have tested the all-time highs, so the equity market is at a quite elevated level should we really have a negative outcome on the G20 meeting. As things stand, as I said, there's probably some hope of de-escalation, which probably would be seen from the equity market as somewhat more friendly. On the next slide, we would have the oil. Oil has obviously bounced a lot of that big key level 50-50 that we looked at in the last few weeks, mainly on the increased tension again back in the Gulf. Right now it doesn't look like anything is going to happen right away, but we've really been touch and go whether or not the US is going to respond with a missile attack on Iran after the shutdown of the drone. So oil is at a key level. We have the OPEC meeting as well early next week that we watch, and given the overall pressure on oil, it could well be that the OPEC might actually decide to increase the cuts just to continue to stabilize the oil market. On the next slide, we see the dollar index. The dollar index has started to suffer on the back of the Fed meeting that we talked about last week. We have stabilized and failed to break this 96.05 area for the time being while we await the news around the G20. One thing to say for all the rate cut expectations, should we get a moderate outcome and a de-escalation on the trade talks, I would think that the Federal Reserve may not cut 50 basis points. It may not even cut 25 basis points. So the market will have to reprice some of those expectations. On the next slide, we have euro-dollar. Same picture here. We started to bounce off these sort of lows on the back of the weaker dollar. We haven't yet really managed to break out on the big 114.50 key level. Keep that in mind. The break there would really start to turn on the heat on the dollar. And the last slide is dollar-yen. There we just see there's the combination of dollar weakness as well as the worries of risk off that just keeps dollar-yen under pressure. 107, a big level to watch there. This is really it, and I would just think it's a bit of 50-50 expectations for the trade talks. As I said, we really only see next week which way we are heading, but I think it will probably be more a moderate outcome. I wish you a lovely weekend, a good next week. Thanks very much indeed.